Thanks, Senator Grassley. I'd like to say a word and get your reaction on the question of agricultural research. Since the 1930s, U.S. government-funded ag research has helped to boost our farm output by 170%, according to the USDA. Today, most agricultural research in the U.S. is funded by large private sector companies, not the government. Agriculture research funded by the U.S. government has plummeted in the past 30 years, while Chinese government investment in ag research has risen 8 times, surpassing the U.S. 10 years ago. Today, China is the world's biggest funder of government-funded farm research. Trump administration and the Doge cowboys want the USDA to close and consolidate a federally funded laboratory at the University of Illinois, the soybean germplasm collection, which is a genetic seed bank whose scientists since the 1940s have cured soybean disease, improved soybean yields, and developed new varieties and uses, again creating new markets for farmers. If this lab and its resources are closed or diminished, there is only one other remaining lab. You want to guess where it is? China. Is there anyone on this panel that thinks that that's a good idea? Obviously not. Mr. Latham, that kind of resource and and federal research has to be part of your calculation as well when you talk about innovation, is it not?
Yes, I would love to see more investment in ag research from public universities. That'd be very helpful.
Well, I hope you'll all express that to your members of Congress and the people you talk to. Dr. Moss, over the last decade, as you've noted and others as well, a series of mergers and acquisitions produced big 3 companies that dominate different sectors. In the seed sectors, it's Bayer, Corteva, and Syngenta. Similar trend produced the big 3 in fertilizer, Mosaic, Nutrien, and CF. Should antitrust enforcers at the FTC and Department of Justice have done more to block these mergers that produces the big 3 in seed and fertilizer?
Thank you, Senator Durbin. The answer is an unequivocal yes. These massive mergers, which have completely restructured our seeds and fertilizer industries, are now responsible for high prices, limited choice, and less effective innovation. The major problem with antitrust today, especially in food and agriculture, is a very narrow view that antitrust takes in defining markets. The divestitures that were taken in the Bayer-Monsanto and the Dow-DuPont mergers were very targeted, very small. And there was a lot of deference to giving companies their mergers so that they could innovate better or innovate faster. We now know that high levels of concentration are not necessary to drive innovation. And these mergers on balance produced more harm than good.
Do you believe the FTC and DOJ need new legal tools to stop the anti-competitive practices of these dominant firms, or is it simply a matter of stepping up oversight and enforcement?
I think antitrust plays a very important role given the limited set of tools, but powerful tools that antitrust works with. The consumer welfare standard can approach concerns about high prices, about lower quality, about less innovation. But the bottom line is most of antitrust enforcement just focuses on prices. The kinds of problems we see in food and ag are bottleneck supply chains, loss of resiliency and stability, a delay of generic entry. These are all things that are much, much harder for antitrust to approach in the normal course of a merger investigation or a monopolization investigation, which is why I mentioned we might want to start thinking about giving USDA more authority.
Mr. Rosenbusch, how do you respond to those observations?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. We believe we need a strong domestic fertilizer industry to compete in the global marketplace, especially when you're looking at countries that are often state-owned enterprises producing fertilizers. We think the FTC has taken a close look at this. As a matter of fact, in the last 2 years, the 2 acquisitions in this space were carefully studied by the FTC and reviewed. And we've also seen the USDA 2 years ago go through a competitive analysis of the industry to ensure that we are competing on a global level and global supply and demand are driving
interrupting, but I have just 20 seconds left. The farmers who are buying your product say you're killing them. You've consolidated so they have few choices, take it or leave it choices, and your prices are killing them. When you say you're competitive globally, it doesn't help the farmer in Illinois and Iowa to know that the global market is competitive. How do you respond to that?
We need the farmers to succeed. They need access to fertilizer,
Killing them with your prices.
and those are all driven by global supply and demand. A lot of these geopolitical events and a reliance on some of that foreign supply coming in is a huge impact on that.
Thank you.
During a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing on Tuesday, Senator Dick Durbin, Democrat Illinois, voiced deep concern over the declining role of the U.S. government in funding agricultural research, warning that such disinvestment could undermine the nation's food security and global competitiveness. He highlighted that since the 1930s, federally supported agricultural research has been instrumental in driving a 170% increase in farm productivity. Yet over the past 3 decades, government funding has steadily plummeted while corporate investment has surged, leaving critical areas of innovation dependent on the private sector. Durbin contrasted this trend with China's dramatic expansion of public investment in agricultural science, noting that the Chinese government spending has increased 8-fold and surpassed U.S. levels a decade ago. Today, China is the world's largest sponsor of government-backed farm research, a shift he described as troubling for America's long-term agricultural leadership. The senator drew particular attention to a proposal from the Trump administration and the DoD cowboys, as he phrased it, to close and consolidate the federally funded soybean genetics laboratory at the University of Illinois. This facility, which houses the nation's soybean germplasm collection, has been vital since the 1940s in developing new soybean varieties, improving yields, combating crop diseases, and creating new market opportunities for farmers. Durbin warned that if this lab and its resources are shut down or diminished, the only comparable research center would be in China, a scenario he called unthinkable given the strategic importance of agricultural innovation. Experts testifying before the committee agreed with Durbin's assessment. Mr. Lom, one of the witnesses, emphasized that increasing public investment in agricultural research through universities is essential to maintaining the U.S. edge in innovation and food security. Dr. Moss, another expert, focused on the broader market consequences of corporate consolidation, arguing that a series of mergers in the seed and fertilizer industries over the past decade has concentrated control in the hands of a few multinational giants. According to Moss, the Big Three seed companies, Bayer, Corteva, and Syngenta, and the Big Three fertilizer producers, Mosaic, Nutrien, and CF Industries, now dominate their respective markets, reducing competition, raising prices for farmers, and stifling innovation. Moss criticized the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, and the Department of Justice, DOJ, for allowing these mergers, saying antitrust enforcers have taken too narrow a view of market concentration and consumer welfare. He argued that the agency's focus on short-term price effects fails to address deeper structural issues, such as supply chain bottlenecks, reduced resiliency, and slower entry of generic products. Moss suggested that Congress consider expanding the USDA's authority to address these anti-competitive practices and ensure a more stable agricultural market. Industry Representative Mr. Rosenbusch defended the fertilizer industry, asserting that U.S. companies must remain competitive globally against state-owned producers in other countries. He maintained that the FTC has adequately reviewed mergers and that recent government analyses confirm a healthy level of competition. Durbin, however, pushed back sharply, saying that while global competitiveness may look fine on paper, it means little to farmers in Illinois and Iowa who are struggling with take-it-or-leave-it pricing. "The farmers who are buying your product say you're killing them," Durbin said. "They have few choices and your prices are driving them out of business." The exchange underscored a growing debate in Washington over the future of U.S. agricultural research and industry oversight. Durbin and several witnesses argued that federal disinvestment and unchecked consolidation threaten not only farmers' livelihoods but also the nation's ability to innovate and compete with China. As the hearing closed, Durbin urged both Congress and the administration to recommit to public agricultural research, warning that once the U.S. falls behind, regaining leadership could take decades.